Hello, I'm Jim Miller. I'm here with Ron Bowers and Henry House. The Flip Side starts right now. Welcome to the show. If you build it, will they come? The baseball stadium is a hot topic again in the city council. Ron, what say you?
First of all, I like to see it, and I think they're getting away from it. It's going to be a complex. It's going to be some type of a complex. And I think as this complex, the complex is going to be very complex to build it, but I think it can be built. And I really, I listened to the entire hearing with everyone that made presentations last evening. And honestly, I see that downtown location down off of Summit Avenue and in that area, and the current area that we have, to all of it to be simultaneously looked at in different phases to build a complex that's going to be all-encompassing of a whole host of different types of events that would use that would use the space that a stadium would be on, somewhat similar to what we have out at the Hagerstown Community College in the Art Building.
Henry?
You know, how many years have we debated this? More years than I think we probably all care to remember. The Suns need a new stadium if we're going to keep a quality baseball team in this community. On the taxpayers' back, the taxpayers have built other stadiums across the state. I think Hagerstown is due. But I agree with you, Ron, that it needs to be a multi-purpose facility. Not just a baseball, but multi-purpose. Whether it's a retractable dome, which would be, sky's the limit as far as budget goes, but if it functioned as a convention and visitor center, that we could actually host events in town, because we have the hotel rooms that can accommodate that and would certainly draw more here, along with the baseball function, along with maybe the possibility of having a minor league, football or soccer team, because you have, I believe, Chambersburg Cardinals have played some games at North. It would be a focal point for the city of Hagerstown, Washington County, to build revenue. And I agree with the downtown location, Summit in Baltimore. It would complement what we have and gain some justification for the arts and entertainment trail. It would show what we have to offer in the city of Hagerstown and be really beneficial to our community.
So immediately following this, there was a Facebook site that I follow that started asking for opinions on it, and as you can imagine, there were many opinions, 262 at last count. I'm just going to run some of these opinions, and I won't say whose opinions they were, but let me just run these by you and get your opinion on these. So one opinion on Facebook was they should build it. The question was to build it or not to build, and if so, where? One of the answers was annex the area of the old Review and Herald into the city boundaries and build it there. It's nice open space and plenty of room for parking. Ron, what do you say on that one?
Well, the person that said this is kind of a day late and a dollar short, because they actually wanted the stadium to be built out where the Board of Education is now years ago. So that outside of the city was discussed with where the Board of Education is now on Route 632, that area where Ed Fulton lives would become a stadium. The other stadium outside of town was up off of Salem Avenue, between Salem Avenue and Marshall Street, which was out of town, and would be $1 million was going to come to that stadium from Allegheny Energy at that time. So these types of things, while they are thought out, annexing the land out there is totally not necessary. And the last thing you want is a stadium where you come in, get in out of the car, go to the stadium, come out, get in your car, and go home. That proves absolutely nothing and accomplishes nothing.
It doesn't build in any other economic benefit to the stadium, because it's a one-trick pony, so to speak.
Yes.
Henry, your opinion?
I agree. What you want the benefit of the stadium is not the fact that it's a ball stadium. The benefit is the contributions it's going to make to the local community. Getting people who are walking to the stadium from whether are parking decks or other parking available in the downtown area is going to patronize businesses downtown. It's going to attract more business downtown. It's a economic boon for the people who have investments in downtown and for the businesses that are already present.
Okay. Here's the next one. Maybe build the stadium, but if and only if we chose a site, and a good example would be the Pangbourne site as an option.
Again, it doesn't bring anything to the inner city. Pangbourne is not an area for it because there's already plans there for Pangbourne, which Rich Dottridge and his company is looking at. So the people.
Plus, I don't think they have the requisite amount of land.
But again, people need to know what the sites are, what the possibilities are, where the amenities are, and where the infrastructure is that can happen. Plus, the way in and out, the road system. What interchanges or intersections will have to be improved, etc.
Okay. Any opinion on that one?
Well, we're in the same issue. I don't think Pangbourne site is anywhere close to being large enough to accommodate. And only thing we're doing is putting a ball stadium. We don't have the other complements that we can add on.
Okay. Next thought was, yes, build it, but build it out by HCC. Henry.
It's easy to get in and get out if you put something out along the way. It could be. I mean, I've been on Robinwood Drive every once in a while.
Always the greatest.
It would probably be easier than a lot of traffic going into downtown, though that can be managed with good, tweaking on our traffic system in downtown. But we again do not see the economic impact that a stadium can bring to the community. If we look at communities with minor league ballparks, the new ballparks are being located downtown because they are economy drivers.
Yes.
And that's what, if this is going to be any benefit to the city of Hagerstown, Washington County, it needs to be where it's going to drive it.
I'm going to throw it to you, but before I do, I'm going to put my 2 cents in on this one, and that is the fact that I think we're taking if we were to do that, we'd be taking prime real estate that should be used for, let's say a technical high school or other technical investment or STEM investment, and we would be using it for something that I don't think it's best use case for. And I agree with Henry. I think it's another example of just not providing any other economic drivers. So what are your comments on HCC?
My comment coming back with what you said, Henry, what each of these folks have in common is they're all still building a stadium. They can't get away from just a stadium. It's got to be a total complex. Henry, I know of your professional concern when it comes to athletic and recreation and what you do as a referee, umpire, and sports, and traveling to different venues and what they have. We need to tie in, if you're going to move what's now out on Memorial Boulevard and move it down off of Summit Avenue, that place is going to become vacant. Take both of those places and design it all at the same time and use it and have that complex you're talking. That's even in walking distance.
Yes.
So you've really opened a town up. And then you can open it up. Don't forget the water on the Antietam Creek. We're sitting here with a future in the next 25, 30 years using water that's phenomenal.
And you mentioned about the existing stadium. If we were to redevelop that area where the former paper mill is, the electric plant, and the ballpark, where are the Suns going to play for the next year or two while that's going on? We need to have a facility. They're not going to go over to North High and play at North High or South High. Okay, HCC facilities don't complement it either for a minor league ballpark. So,
all right, we have one comment that's suggested, and I apologize, I didn't mean to laugh at this, that the Hagerstown commissioners, and yes, they use the word commissioners, chased the Suns out of town back in the 90s, or tried to. Why are we even entertaining this notion today? Ron?
Let me give you some. I was on the Board of County Commissioners that voted to bring Major League Baseball to Hagerstown back in the 80s when Lou Idiopoulos brought the team in from Florida.
Right.
I am totally familiar with what happened. I was also involved with Frostburg University coming downtown Hagerstown. They said that could never be done. We did. I was involved with Governor Glendenning to buy the Baldwin House and to become the Renaissance for higher education with USMH downtown, and you can see how beautifully that's turned out to be. Also with Governor Glendenning, when he signed to buy the Baldwin House, he also signed a land and they built a new district court building. We built Black Rock Golf Course. All of these things could not be done. And again, it's people making comments that do not follow what history has taught us.
But minor league baseball has really changed in the last, was close to 30 years, more than 30 years that the Suns have come to town. Minor league can be seen as a driving force in your community. Look what, Frederick did build theirs out on the highway, and they benefited from it being right beside 70, but they didn't have the same luxury of the downtown property that we're talking about. They didn't have that available because they had already started to do some development in their downtown at that point and had the urban planning for it. We need to have a respectable opportunities in this community of activities to draw people here. Okay, whether we are strictly bedroom and people commute down to the city, or people who are living and thriving here and want to raise families, this is a benefit to the community. It's not minor league baseball that we're talking about. That's narrowing the conversation down to one subject. We're talking about a benefit to the entire community, not just for baseball and underwriting, a large portion of the share of the cost of the stadium, but also what it's going to bring in and contribute to our community.
All right, we don't have a lot of time, but there's a couple more of these I want to get to, and I want to try to get to all of them. So there was another person who suggested the fairground site. Ron, 30 seconds or less. What are your thoughts on that one?
I wouldn't do it. The fairground site's already been developed. It's doing so much good, and there's a talk of a second ice skating rink, which we've talked about on this program. Totally against the fairground site.
Henry?
Agreed.
Okay. Henry, the one person said, we have too many parks and pathways as it is. We don't need it.
We don't need it. A community that does not invest and sustain its parks and recreation activities is a community that's dying.
Beware of parking was a comment from somebody. And certainly there has to be appropriate parking, and they brought up the thought process of when you have something going on at the Maryland Theater, parking is at a premium, but I think any stadium would certainly, if it was downtown, there's talk of a new deck, correct?
Well, there's talk of a new deck behind where the old Hagerstown Trust, where Columbia Bank is now. There's a new deck, but that's always been the question. You can't expand the Maryland Theater, no parking. Well, we're doing it, and there'll be parking. You can't have BISFA. Oh, the other one, BISFA will never make it. The number one school in Washington County in Washington County is Barbara Ingram School for the Arts. So that all works. Parking is totally irrelevant. There is so much parking in downtown Hagerstown, but you got to walk a little bit sometimes.
But let me ask you a question. Baseball schedule. How far in advance are they published?
A year, 2 years.
And booking talent for the Maryland Theater, how far in advance is that normally done?
We're years out sometimes.
Okay, so when you're doing that, you can coordinate the home and away schedule of one facility in order to accommodate parking.
Okay. A couple others that I'm not going to ask you to comment on, but I just think are interesting.
We may want to.
Oh, wait a minute. Actually, I will get you to comment on this one. Municipal golf course is an option.
I like the municipal golf course right where it's at. I think it's the debate that I've seen over the years doing away with the municipal golf course, keep it. What is it, at Hamilton Run?
Yep.
The greens at Hamilton Run, keep it.
Okay. Yeah, the three that I won't get you to comment on is somebody said fix the current stadium, which we know it can't be brought up to specs just based on the water problems and other problems. Somebody said the stadium will attract more undesirables into our community, which I'm not sure about that one. And the last comment, which I found just amusing, was how about Ohio? That's where they want to build it. My thought process is, again, I think if the numbers work, and I'm not an expert on these types of things, but I think we've done enough studies that all point to the fact that this thing can be successful. I think we need to listen to the experts and stop listening to the armchair quarterbacks. The other thing that I would say is, and I've said this on many occasions on this program, We look at BISFA, we look at USMH, we look at some of the other development that's going on in town, and we have an entire new generation of young people that not only are downtown, they want to be downtown. So I think, we talk about feet on the street. That's what's going to add feet on the street.
Did you see the hundreds of kids downtown over the last couple of weeks going to Barbara Ingram graduation, Smithburg graduation, other graduations, bringing their parents,
Absolutely.
their grandparents? You couldn't even get in a restaurant?
You're going to get the last word on that. We've got a lot more to talk about that on that topic. We're going to try to get somebody in from the city to talk to us to go over what they believe are the pros and the cons. Some of the other subjects are, if we do nothing, what do we gain? What other economic drivers could it bring downtown? How do we achieve the Maryland's magic 1/3 private investment? And the last one, which I think at least one person would say significantly impacted one election, is how will this impact the upcoming election, this renewed debate? But we'll address that another day. Next up on the flip side, we're going to talk about the school board, and they have approved higher salaries for the teachers. Stay tuned. We're back shortly. So the school board, in their most recent meeting, approved higher salaries for teachers. I guess incoming pay. I don't know whether other salaries were impacted. Henry, where is the money coming from to do this? Ron, where is the money coming from to do this?
You hear, like in the commissioners' meeting the other day, about all the state mandates coming down and all the issues that the state's creating for us.
The unfunded liabilities?
Yeah, well, guess where the funded grant came, or the funded money came from for the next couple of years?
Does it have anything to do with a guy named Kerwin?
Yes, and it has to do with the legislature and the governor.
Right.
They brought the money up. They're allowed now a 3.8% increase in salary, where before there was a little about 2%, and now we've how much you taking a new teacher, Henry?
Was it? I think it's around 48
today.
Yeah,
But
48,
it's going up to like 55.
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Effective today, it went up. It went to $55,000, $10,000 increase to $55,000 for a starting teacher
starting salary,
in Washington County. And the Kerwin Commission, is it going to do anything? People want good education but don't want to pay for it. Now they're paying. The state's sending us the money to do it.
But you pointed out one thing. It was done with a grant.
And the grant expires. So 2020, 2021, that's when this is supposed to be implemented as far as the grant money. 2022, it's there. Do we has anyone looked at the Maryland state budget to see what our issues are going to be in 2 to 4 years? I know it's not very promising from all the reports I've had.
I was in the meeting a couple of months ago when they said there's going to be serious troubles next year. Senator Serafini, Delegate Quarterman also acknowledged, as well as the Chris Shank, who's the top legislative person of the governor. Next year's going to be a bear of a year. And where else do you have a problem now with grants?
Well, we'll talk about that maybe later. So, but do the teachers deserve a raise? Yes, I think we all can agree that the teachers do deserve a $10,000 raise. Is a pretty
well, that's a $10,000 raise for somebody starting.
Right.
But I would argue, especially in this economy where we've got 3-point-something% unemployment, I think if we want to attract good teachers, we need to pay the money.
I mean, is anyone arguing that the teachers should have a raise?
Not me.
Okay, me neither. However, how we fund it is where I have the issues with, that we're funding it via a grant versus trying to find the way within our existing budget to get it to fit. And that's where I personally have an issue. I'm glad they came to an agreement with the teachers union. Everyone's out there with chocolate bars, marshmallows, and graham crackers, making s'mores and singing Kumbaya. But when it's all said and done, what happens if this grant evaporates?
How many $1 million did we have on highway user funds that we lost that was a grant?
Yeah.
$9 million. We now get $450,000.
So
it has increased.
Is this going to impact, if this grant evaporates and the money's not put in, is this going to impact our classroom size? Is it going to lower the quality of education in the county because now we're at 40 kids in the classroom versus having.
Well, and that is very possible. I think that's not outside of the realm of possibilities, but I don't think you don't. I think you do this take this one step at a time, and I think clearly before the Kerwin Commission, there was little doubt that, especially in Washington County, we needed to do something about teacher salaries. And I think now this is the step to do that. How do we fund it long term? I think those questions need to be answered. We're going to talk later on.
And someday I'd be encouraged to find that there's a residency requirement for where you live.
Okay.
Instead of living in places and then enjoying the high salaries. What's a $15 an hour deal we'll get into someday.
We will. But again, from my perspective, and I think in my view, the Kerwin Commission recommendations, this is a part of those, and I think it makes sense. And I know that the Board of Education, the people that we elect and pay, not very much, but we pay them a little bit, to look at this. I think the vote was unanimous.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't?
Oh, Mr. Gusford voted against it. Mr. Bickford was not present for the vote.
Okay. All right. My apologies. I was wrong on that. I don't know where I read
Was there a
that.
reason there was a vote against it?
I haven't spoken to him, so I don't know. But he did vote against it, and he's actually, I believe, one of his responsibilities was budget and finance for the Board of Education, as his committee that he oversees.
Okay. So it wasn't unanimous. I stand corrected.
No, sorry.
No, that's all right. That's good information. Again, that said, my opinion is show me the money.
Well, my concern with implementing the recommendations from the Kerwin Commission, are we taking, that multi-thousand-page report and just taking pages out of it that we want to implement, or are we looking at and digesting it in a forthright fashion all the way through?
And that's a very good question, one that I'm certainly not capable of answering. But the other alternative there is, are we looking at it and saying, okay, here are quick wins that we can achieve, understanding that there's still a lot more to be done. And that's something we need to get our Board of Education Superintendent of Schools on the program, which we will
getting
do.
back on, yes, I think we should.
But again, in my view, it's a positive move forward. I know that certainly the Board of Education on April 16th unanimously approved contract agreements, including salary scale increases. So that was what was unanimously approved.
Okay.
That's where I got that. And then this was different. So you're right. There was a dissenting.
And so were you.
So okay. So we were both right.
Okay.
All right. Were you right, Ron?
I didn't say anything, so I was right.
You're not usually right? All right. Coming up next.
No, I'm usually left, as you say.
Yeah, there you go. Congressman John Delaney against AOC. Do we have an upcoming celebrity death match? Stay with us. We're back after the break. Welcome back. Former Congressman John Delaney got booed while in California after criticizing other campaigns' notion that they want to implement Medicare for all. That sparked return comments from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or AOC, and now Congressman Delaney challenged her to a debate. Henry, is this celebrity deathmatch version 2?
I don't think so. I mean, the twit tweeted, and that was anticipated.
Wait a minute. The twit tweeted.
Yes. I don't mean to be disparaging to AOC, but I mean, a lot of her comments allow people to have different opinions. They're not always wrong. And I give credit because John Delaney went in there. He knew he was going to have a negative reception to this, particularly going in California. So he had a courage, which I commend him for, to stand up there and go against the grain of the current, very far misguided Democratic Party.
Misguided in your opinion?
In my opinion, and
okay.
That's the one that matters to me.
Okay. Ron, what say you?
Well, I'm glad it was Henry's opinion. You never pick a fight with somebody when you have 1,700 or 350 tweets and your followers are 1,700, where she's got 4.3 million and she had 2,100 21,200 likes on what she did. Is she right or is she wrong? I like her because she's brought the topic of conversation back that people, if somebody is disliked that much, they're saying something a lot of people don't like. Medicare for all, well, you don't have Medicare yet. You don't have Medicare, I do. Medicare is not a bad thing, but I still need 20%. I think what Delaney's saying, along with Medicare, you still need private insurance. I'm not sure that's what AOC is progressing or saying. I like what Delaney says, but for him, he's got to do something to step up and to take her on or to take the position he did. I commend him for it. I'm anxious to see now how she comes back, because she certainly has proven she's taken the wind out of the sails, and she's ahead of Nancy Pelosi for what people have to say about her. I enjoy it. I like to hear new progressive ideas. I like to hear other ideas that maybe somebody else has got how to do. I'm still waiting on all those votes from the Republicans to do away with Obamacare and replace it, and they've yet to replace it.
It would have been done, save one vote.
But it wasn't
And it
done.
didn't
But it
happen.
wasn't done.
It wasn't
done.
I
Woulda,
understand.
coulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
I understand
so
that.
all
but
of
we're not
those
talking about
votes,
them.
and they still don't know what to do.
All right, well, and he's got a good point. We're not talking about that, although you have a good point that you're right, they didn't vote. But let's talk about this. How many Twitter followers does AOC have?
4.3 million.
4.3 million. So did John Delaney just get name recognition from 4.3 million people that he didn't have a week ago? So he's going to laugh
It's
all the way to the
strategic.
bank. He's going to laugh all the way to the
Well,
bank.
he's got to make sure he can get on stage with the other candidates, too, because right now he can't.
Okay, well, I understand that, but we're still early. We're still early in this process. And again, I would not be one to count out John Delaney. And I guess my next question is, John Delaney, in Washington County, for example, that's a very reasonably conservative community, he garnered a lot of support here in his run for Congress, even from some diehard Republicans. Are issues like this why he garnered that kind of support? Because he's willing to stand up and not necessarily walk the strict party line and say, this is what I believe. It's a little different than what my fellow Democrats believe, but this is what I believe. Does that help him? Did it help him in his runs for Congress? Will it help him in his run for president?
Yes.
Okay.
Both.
Do you want to expand on that?
Well, he's a business person. He understands. The people make comments aren't business people. The people that's against something, they're against it until their mother-in-law or their mother or their father, their grandfather needs health care, and then why don't we have health care? So in a lot of these cases, it's people that make comments for political reasons, but what is the end game to ensure that everybody has a Medicare type insurance? And you know what the old game is for a lot of rich folks? Make sure their grandparents and those people wind up on Medicaid. Get them to turn their house and everything over except $2,499 and put them on Medicaid. And that's kind of where this whole thing falls down on how you get health care and how it's going to work in the future.
Henry, obviously there's no denying the fact that you're a Republican.
Right.
Do positions like this give you reason to think about a candidate like Delaney as a potential option?
If I didn't have an issue with him as my congressman.
Okay.
I thought he did a functional job. Would I prefer someone more conservative in that role? Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I think this makes him more popular. He's a candidate, I think, that can bridge a gap and actually challenge someone like Donald Trump. You know, both, and Ron, I'm glad to hear you admitting that, business people have a little bit of knowledge of the way things should occur out there. You might not agree with everyone's business tactics, but anyway. Delaney definitely grew as a congressman for us. From where he first entered to when he left office, he was a much better articulate speaker, better grasp of all the issues. And I think him carrying it over here and bringing up a debate, and that's what he needs. He needs to get back onto someone's radar screen, start to work his way up. He would be out of the existing Democratic field, I think he would be one of the strongest challengers for President Trump right now.
So one of the things I need to say about John Delaney, and I met him, well, I didn't meet him, but I heard him for the first time that he was publicly in Hagerstown, which was one of the very early chamber events that they have for the candidates. And I got to tell you what he articulated in his talk there and his positions he took. He may have grown as a politician. I don't think his positions, in my view, shifted significantly from what he promised in the campaign. Ron, am I right or am I wrong?
I agree. I followed him closely. I know John Delaney relatively well, and I would agree. His stature became different. But I want to ask Henry a question. Would you agree that conservative today is not the same as it was 2 years ago? Would you agree that when you said you're conservative, would you agree that local officials now and that are Republicans are conservative as what you envision conservatives?
I would say that it's probably the same on both sides of the aisle. The people who we have representing us portray themselves as one thing when they're campaigning, and as they get into the office, they start to yield to political interests that will be for their future well-being. How's that for a political answer?
What I hear you saying, conservative has changed.
As has progressivism.
I don't know too many progressive in office here right now. But as conservatives, you've got conservatives voting for tax increases.
Yes, you do.
You've got conservatives in the federal system with that budget running wild.
Okay.
So,
but we're getting off the subject of Congressman Delaney AOC.
But we talk conservative. Your conservative values have they changed? Was my question.
Has my values changed? No, I probably have, got more conservative as I've gotten older. Public officials, I think they advertise one thing and they deliver another sometimes.
Do you believe that? Do you believe that liberalism, progressivism, if you will, has changed?
Far more left.
Okay. And I would argue, answering the question that you asked Henry, I would argue that many on the right have become far more right. Fortunately for the country,
now, wait a minute. How do they become more right when they're more?
Those who are not serving in office, I believe, have gone far more right.
Okay.
But the schism between right and left, that divide has grown more deeply in the last 4 to 6 years.
All right, so I'm gonna answer your question, but then I want to get back on topic here. How can they be far more right? They portray themselves as far more right.
Elected officials are never seen a dollar they didn't want to spend.
Right, and I don't care whether they're Republican or Democrat.
Well, I'm going, but who's in office? I can't say Democrats in Washington County. There aren't any.
But if we were Baltimore County, you'd be saying...
We're talking national.
We're talking
John
here.
Delaney has never held an office in Washington County, period.
Yes,
he is a
did.
national
He was a
candidate.
6th congressional district.
That is a national office, Ron.
Don't
Get
matter.
with the program. Yes, it does matter.
He's still
we
here.
are talking national politics.
He's still here.
But he's not a Washington County candidate. He is a national candidate.
Actually, he was a Washington County candidate because it's a local district.
That's right. It's a local district, but it's a national office. Can we agree on that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
but
let's get back on topic. My point is that we can't mix local politics, local politicians, county commissioners, city council people, sheriffs, even the nonpartisan elections. We can't. There's a difference. In my view, the further you go from local to national politics, the bigger the divide, and the more. I don't think people in Washington County.
You really think that?
I know that.
This county is reflective of the national feeling right now as any county in the state of Maryland. Okay. This county is more attuned to what the national debate is than any county in the state of Maryland, Washington County.
Okay, I don't believe that's true. But at any rate, let's talk about Medicare for all. Is that a good policy? Yes or no, and why?
Medicare what?
Medicare for all. John Delaney versus AOC. Is Medicare for all a good policy, in your view?
Medicare for all with an assistance from outside insurance only. not for all.
Okay, so the answer is no.
Right. But depends on your age now. After 65, yes.
No, we're saying for
65,
all. So from
Okay,
infants to your age.
No.
Okay. Henry?
Absolutely not.
Oh, wow, we agree on this. Could this division, and knowing, and this is where I'm excited about this, and this is why I'm excited about John Delaney. Whether I ultimately vote for him or not is another question, but here's what I think he can do. With his, we're going to have this discussion now as a part of the primary. And it's a discussion that has traditionally been a difference between Republicans and Democrats. Now the Democrats get to fight this argument out among themselves. And there's issues on the Republican side, by the way, Ron, that I would love to have two people on the Republicans that are on different sides of the issue so we could equally fight those issues out. But can we agree, do you agree, that the fact that this is going to be a subject in the primary race, is that a good thing for our country?
Well, the last time was President Trump. President Trump had a totally different philosophy. He was still standing and 17 or 18 others fell. He had an extreme position. He won. That doesn't say a progressive extremist this time can't get through a primary,
So
and you have two extreme polar opposites against each other.
You think John is a progressive extremist?
No.
Well,
This isn't all about John Delaney.
Well, it is right now because that's our topic.
Well, but you're talking about what happens
I'm
at
talking
the end.
about is the fact that this is going to be debated within a political party.
He's got to be on the stage to get the debate.
Okay, let's make an
I
assumption
can't
that he
do
is.
that. He's got to get there first.
Okay.
He has to get there, and right now he isn't there.
But I would say that John Delaney is grabbing that donkey by the bridle right now and trying to lead that donkey back more towards center where there's going to be more votes available than out on the far extreme that everyone else in the pool of candidates for president is trying to appeal to.
I would acknowledge that with his move against AOC is calculated for him to go up, not down, and to get on the stage.
And I think it starts a discussion, and I think it's a healthy discussion to have that within a party instead of across parties. Because when you have it within a party, hopefully then the party starts having a legitimate conversation about it and make a decision about what really is the best way for our country. Because when you have it across parties, the Republicans are going to go this way, the Democrats are going to go this way, and nothing gets solved. And I think, in my view, that has happened far too much in our country. But I'm going to take the last word on that. Up next, Fast Five. Stay with us. Welcome to Fast Five, where our three panelists talk about 5 topics in 7 short minutes. Governor Hogan says no to 2020, but maybe to 2024. Henry?
Wise move. I think he would have impacted his ability to govern the state of Maryland after he lost in the primary. Yes, he could have brought up interesting topics and make Donald Trump debate, but he doesn't have enough national recognition yet that he could have won a presidential election here.
Ron?
He is forming an America United. And that America United, which he is forming right now, will be across the aisle to bring bipartisan, which he's done so far in the state of Maryland, to bring people together. And he wants to do that across the country. To me, having an America United committee put together to go out in the country is an ideal opportunity to poise yourself for 2024.
Okay. My only concern about 2024 is we will see where the nation is. If a Democrat gets elected in 2020, I think he probably has a better than average chance in 2024. If Donald Trump gets reelected, we tend to get tired of parties after 8 years. It's very rare in our country that we elect the same party 3 elections in a row.
Yeah, Reagan, Bush.
And Bush only got elected for 1 term. So, all right, 59 lawmakers call for a rejection, speaking of Governor Hogan, of the Hogan Road Plan. That's a lot of lawmakers, Henry. What say you?
Hogan could argue about the sky being blue, and they would have said the sky is not blue. It is gray, it is purple, it is some other color. Regardless of where Hogan comes down, they were going to oppose him. I think Hogan's plan may be out. While it's not perfect, I think it's a good starting block for us to proceed.
I read all of the available concerns, and I am a supporter of Governor Hogan, a big supporter of Governor Hogan. But I think there were some cogent points that were brought up by these lawmakers. Ron, what say you?
That debate's no longer out there. As of today, Wednesday, the Board of Public Works voted 3-2 to go forward with Hogan's plan. And in going through with Hogan's plan, those things with the environment and that type of thing will be dealt with. There will be no speedy recovery or no speedy process of circumventing things. And by being the tie-breaking vote in that case was Peter Francho, the comptroller. He's put steps in there that Hogan was forced to accept. That's going to ensure some of those points that you're going to bring up are covered. So I like it. I think it was a wise debate. They're talking monorail. They're talking about the ability of buses and transportation to tie in to these off-road ways, you know, to get around the Beltway or on 270 or the Capitol Beltway and that type of thing. You know, we have a problem with Washington, D.C., where it is, and you have to go through Maryland to get there. The road network is a tricky situation. And I think with the private sector, now you're going to have tolls. So it's like going down that Route 66. There's one lane you can get in. It's a $2 toll. So they're making these tolls, and they want that, Francho's got in that bill, that toll money comes back in to help do different things to help the road system out. So I think it was theater at its best at the Board of Public Works.
Well, your point about it being approved, you're right. I should have mentioned that up front. But yeah, generally, I think you're right. I think it was theater. But I still think there were some cogent points there.
Yes.
All right. We just found out that Maryland taxpayers have footed, is that correct English? Are footing the bill for the big tent at Preakness. Henry?
How much other money do we put into Preakness? Could we make maybe some investment into the racetrack itself? Okay. Footing the bill, minor beans compared to what we need to do to keep the Preakness race in Maryland.
Okay. Ron?
I kind of like the things that you said. It was $145,000. I think there needs to be multi-millions of dollars put in the Preakness, Pimlico, to make things right. I don't want to ever lose that race. I think it's important, and this year's race was exciting.
It was.
And the different things that happened.
The jockey falling off right out of the gate. That was.
And now with the Belmont, what happens if the horse that won the Preakness now wins the Belmont, and he was the one blocked from possibly winning the Derby? I think it's exciting times. I do think a corporate tent could have been used, and a big company in Maryland, or a couple of companies could have gone together. I've been in that tent about 7 times in my career, and I know what it's used for. And it's used for all things to help. It's like playing golf at the golf course or standing in the parking lot after a meeting. It's a way to do business. It's a way of doing business.
Yep. All right. Former Bush diplomat speaks out strongly, I would add, on Trump's UK slams. Ron?
That's no news to me. I would have been shocked if there had been something good said, but it's nothing earth-shattering that happened. I would have been shocked to hear something positive, but it's typical. It's a typical president. I mean, he was the president.
Yeah, but that's not typical to slam the mayor and the. Yeah.
Well, but we've learned that now for a couple years. And
right. Henry, what say you?
I think it's pettiness on both sides. You know, I think Trump, as the president, should have taken the higher road and not lowered himself to the mayor of London. And, you know, and this individual who served under President Bush, I think it's just pure pettiness.
Yeah, I don't know that I believe that it's pettiness on the diplomat side. I mean,
he had valid points, but at the same point,
I would call Trump's actions, quite frankly, petulant. I felt like
that's a good word that he used.
Little 7-year-old kid. All right. cyber attacks. Everyone is at risk, including the latest, Baltimore City. Henry, what say you?
You know, invariably, and I have the same thing on our company network that is under attack all the time. They're sending stuff in, and someone opens something. Oh, this
And
is
clicks it,
and all of a sudden the entire thing goes down. Well, if you see something you don't recognize the source, or if it's a hyperlink, don't click on it. Okay, a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to have your system so locked down that you can't update your mouse pointer without having an IT person come and sit in front of your computer.
Yeah.
It's the world that we live in. We have to be.
Ron?
I jotted one little sentence down. Maryland congressional delegation members say when it comes to the ransomware attack on Baltimore, they want to know who and how. And it's the same way here. And I think once it all comes out and it's all said and done, you will find that here in Washington County, the issues that we've had in Hagerstown over the last month and a half, a lot of them will be linked. They will get to the bottom of what's made it happen, and there's going to be some significant findings.
Well, I hope you're right, because heretofore we have not had those significant findings on many other attacks for many other businesses and communities, and I just...
But you know they're all over. They're just north of us. They're all over happening.
Oh, I get it. Right? There's a county in Pennsylvania right now that's been down like 9 days because of a ransomware attack. The entire county, 1,200 or so users. I mean, that's significant.
Mm-hmm. So it's coming.
And, you know, we have attacks. We had attacks in the past on Amazon. We had attacks on huge companies.
JCPenney. I mean, how many?
JCPenney, absolutely. And it's just, yeah, it's. I wish people would put that energy to positive use.
But why does the people so recklessly condemn everything in our community? It doesn't matter what it is. Why are there so many reckless people? Is it because they can just hit the send button?
Well, we didn't have social media. We didn't have these issues 20 years ago.
All right, but that's another conversation for another day. Next up on the flip side, it's thumbs up, thumbs down. Stay with us for our last segment of the day. Welcome to Thumbs Up, Thumbs Down. Let's hear what our guests have to say tonight. Henry, what say you?
Well, my thumbs down, and I probably won't have time for a thumbs up when I'm over with, is the Washington County Commissioners, the three that placed their vote to increase taxes in our county, and the feckless leadership that we have after we instilled the trust to put them into office. I am aggravated and upset over the fact that they voted not to control spending, but to increase taxation. I'm irritated by the fact that it was a knee-jerk reaction, which I'm sure there was plenty of advanced knowledge prior to this, to put a proposal in with less than a week for true public debate. This is not the way government should run, period. It's embarrassing, the fact that we had 3 county commissioners who portray themselves as conservatives going out there and voting for this tax that now removes the opportunity of us having emergency ceiling for taxation. We're on taxation on par with Montgomery County at 3.2%. How is that of service to our community? It's not. It's not going to be attracting more businesses to the community. It's to cover for maybe failings of previous county commissioners and the boards that we had there by having, spending that was higher than what our revenue could sustain. But today, we were completely let down, and I'm ashamed to call myself a Republican by having these 3 individuals vote for this.
All right. Ron?
I'm going to give a thumbs up today to Janice Riley.
Okay.
Janice is leaving the community to go to Texas, but she now is in charge of the Technical Innovation Center at the college. And she was able to put together a meeting this past Monday that brought together some people that haven't been together for a long time. And it's now, hopefully, aviation and aeronautics will get the attention of the Hagerstown Community College, and that there will be something done other than just manufacturing and other issues, but we will give that attention to aviation and aeronautics with what we have at the airport, what we have with Sierra Nevada and Pittsburgh Institute of Aeronautics. I just applaud her for bringing it together because there was some good debate at that meeting. And I think the college is going to realize now they need to step forward, I think they will, to help promote some type of a council that deals with the heritage and history of aviation in this community. We're missing the boat on taking aviation and aeronautics to the next level in Washington County.
All right, thumbs down?
None.
None. Okay. So I have and I'm going to cover the same subject that you did, Henry, but maybe with a little different take, because I'm not sure at this point whether it's a thumbs up or thumbs down for me. I just don't have enough information to present an informed opinion. Here's what concerns me, and part of this you brought up. If we look at Washington County now, we are at the top tax rate allowed by the state. We are in a group with Baltimore City, Montgomery County, and Prince George's County, among a couple others.
That's income tax.
Income tax, yes. For maxing out the tax rate that is allowed by the state of Maryland. Our neighboring counties, Frederick is at 2.96%. Allegheny is at 3.05%. So we are 15 basis points and 24 basis points above our two neighboring counties, which concern me. There are 8 of 24 counties, or 1/3, that have elected to have this highest tax rate. There are 15 of 24 counties that are now at 3% or above, so that's just under 60% of the total counties. There are 9 of 24 counties that are between 2 and 2.99%, or 38% of the total counties, and there's 1 county that's below 2%. My point is this. What is the next reaction at the state level? Who sets the maximum rate at the state? Guess who? Who sets it, Ron?
The delegates do. The legislature.
So, when we have this many counties approaching the maximum or at the maximum tax rate, what's the next logical move for a group that has never found a dollar that they didn't know how to spend?
The next move is to cut their grants, the disparity grant that they went to 3.2% to get. That's the next move.
But and to raise the maximum tax rate, which again, from a business perspective, in my view,
Are you saying Montgomery County would want to raise that 3.2 to 3.6?
I don't know what they want to do, and I'm not talking about Montgomery County at this point.
Well, they're the ones that lead the charge on it.
Okay. Well, my point is this. That, again, I don't have enough information available to me to say whether this is a good move or a bad move, but I will agree with Henry wholeheartedly that it was a quick move, and I think perhaps a little bit too quick. And if it wasn't a quick move, then I have to say that we've been gamed a little bit, because it certainly wasn't published in time for to allow the ability to have a real debate on it. That's my opinion. And that's all the time we have for tonight. We hope you will like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, send us feedback at feedback@theflipsidetv.com. That's feedback@theflipsidetv.com. We also hope you will join us next week for another visit to the Flip Side. Good night.